and welcome to this Q&A video. With me is Alex Holtom, Director of International Law Firm Solutions, and we're going to preview the next Global Legal Post Masterclass on the directory submissions process that we run in association with Alex. So Alex runs the course. Alex, how important are the directories in your view?
I think it really depends on what your market is. If you're a firm that's looking to get instructions off other lawyers, particularly international law firms, in-house counsel of international firms, firms with international practices in other jurisdictions, then I think it's very important. I think there are some firms that are less, it's less important to, who have sort of largely domestic practices. They're largely for lawyers, and if you're looking to get work off lawyers, then they have a lot of significance.
I think it was last week that Chambers announced the latest European directory, didn't it?
Yes, that's right. I mean, that's sort of the culmination of certainly a lot of our work and a lot of firms' work, and it's kind of much awaited by many firms in many jurisdictions. So yes, it is an important date, and we also have the Legal 500 one coming up during April. So it's kind of key season for rankings being published.
Lots of activity. So how well researched are the directories?
I think the answer to that is reasonably. I could certainly throw a lot of criticisms at them. I think maybe they favour bigger firms more than smaller firms. They favour older lawyers ahead of younger lawyers. They're reluctant to change the rankings. At the same time, I remember the world before Chambers and Legal 500. And in that world, if you were a practicing lawyer, which I was at the time, if you wanted to instruct a firm in another jurisdiction, you climbed up the ladder, got dusted Martindale off the shelf, and all Martindale was a list of, as far as I know anyway, was a list of firm profiles. It gave you no information about what the firm had done. So I would say that, and I would also say, one test is that every time you ask a firm about the rankings, by and large, they say, well, we're disappointed with our own rankings, but the rankings of other firms are pretty accurate. So, generally, I would say they're far from perfect, but they're much better than the world was before them.
Thank you for that, Alex. And I must confess, as a journalist, I also find myself gravitating towards the main directories to check out how law firms are ranked. Given that we accept that it's an extremely important process, what are the common mistakes that law firms make when going through what is, we know, a very time-consuming process for them?
You have to follow the process. You have to tick the right boxes, get references to respond, put in the right information about work highlights, and if you don't, you won't get the rankings that you deserve. It's really as simple as that. Certainly, I think in the past, a lot of people thought they could charm the researchers into ranking them higher. Maybe once upon a time they could, but that's certainly not the case anymore.
And I sat in on some of the discussions that I found very interesting, and it is about focusing on the right areas.
Yeah.
And what are the right areas to focus on?
The key success factors are, first of all, references. You have to put forward appropriate references, and you have to get them to respond and encourage them to respond. And that's a real challenge because, by and large, most of those people are your clients, and you don't want to upset them. You don't want to have researchers contacting them several times a year. But if you want to get the rankings and maximize your rankings, which is the term we tend to use, it's something you have to do. The second thing, really above all, is the information about your work highlights. Make sure it's clear why something is a work highlight. What was it that was notable about it? Was it value? Was it complexity? Was it the first deal of its type? Was it a particularly significant new client? Et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, I would say they're the two two major factors that you can influence. On top of that, it also helps if you give insightful feedback about the market and about other firms on the market. That helps, and that needs to be insightful, not sort of prejudice, which sometimes it is.
There are some classic mistakes, aren't there, as well? What are those some of the pitfalls?
Well, I mean, I think with the references, one of the classic mistakes is, which you don't get that often, is you do occasionally get firms that will pretty well make up the answers for their clients themselves. And we have one instance where every reference of a client put in exactly the same feedback about our client, and it was fairly obvious in that instance that they hadn't really followed the correct process and done it in the right way, and they rightly got penalised as a result. I think it certainly doesn't pay to get very aggressive with any of the directories, which again you do find people doing from time to time. By and large, they I think do their best. They have to work to a process because given the volume of what they're doing, it would be impossible to do anything else.
One of the things we do is a survey of the people who come on the course, and that survey tells us how time consuming it is. And I think one of your key messages is you need to be proportionate about the time you put in.
Yeah, I think it's also be proportionate. Some parts of the process are far more important than others. One thing that is certainly of secondary importance, not unimportant, but of secondary importance, are profiles of lawyers and that you include in the submission. And you certainly get some firms that spend an inordinate amount of time providing information about publications an individual's written or presentations that an individual's given in the year. And those are at best relatively unimportant, and certainly you say you need to be focused on the right things, really.
Well, thank you very much, Alex. Much more discussion and workshops as well, opportunities for the people who attend the course to sort of discuss the challenges with each other on the 28th of April. So hopefully see you then.
Okay, John, thank you very much, and looking forward to it.